What is up, TFA fam? In this episode, you're going to see the part 2 of the discussion Kevin and I had on our wide receiver rankings. Already looked at 1 through 12, so this is going to be 13 to 36, and Kevin thinks some of mine are spicy. So be sure to drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are, and here is the show. But moving things on here to wide receivers 13 to 24, we both have Terry McLaurin at 13. Then you have DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, Bobby Trees at 18. You have Amari Cooper all the way down here at 19. Then Godwin, Golladay, Ayuk, Cooper Kupp, and Odell Beckham to round out your 24. And like I said, I have McLaurin at 13 as well, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Julio Jones at 16, Robert Woods at 17. I bumped Ayuk up to 18, and then I have Deontay Johnson at 19. You had him at 16. We both have Godwin at 20. I have Evans at 21. I put Jamar Chase here at 22, DJ Chark at 23, and then Kenny Golladay at 24. With these guys, like I said, after I got through my top 12, like this is really where I started to go back and forth and, push guys up and bring guys down, then move them around and take them up one spot, move them back down. So this was, this was a little difficult for me to try and hash this out. But your thoughts here on this group of wide receiver twos as we take an early look at the 2021 wide receiver ranks.
I think the top of it was really tough for me, and then the bottom, because Terry McLaurin is a guy that I could have as a top 12 for sure. And he may end up winding himself there as we get closer because, like I said, I think this offense is going to be better. This is the best quarterback that he's now played with, and he has produced year in and year out, much like we saw Allen Robinson be able to do. And now you get Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's kind of the king of the DGAF attitude, who is going to air it out no matter what. I do think Curtis Samuel could hurt him a little bit, just because, this is the first time that he'll have an actual other playmaker there outside of not named Logan Thomas, which is crazy to even think. But, Logan Thomas is part of the brand here at this show. But anyway, so I do think that could hurt him a little bit, but not anything dramatically. DJ Moore, I still absolutely love. He's still also really young. I think he's only 23, maybe 24 at the most. And I think that this could be a real breakout year with Sam Darnold there. I hope they use DJ Moore more out of the slot again this year, because I think that would make a lot of sense to really put him in the slot, and which we know that Sam Darnold absolutely loves the slot wide receiver. But regardless of that, he still has just been solid the last couple of years. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are tough because I was higher on them, and then they brought back Antonio Brown. And I'm like, here we go. Because it is going to be a little bit of kind of, I think it caps their ceilings anyway, with having all three of these guys there again. Because, if you look at Mike Evans last year, he was solid. He wasn't, he had a couple really big weeks. Week 2, he had 23.4, 25.2. And then he kind of went a little south. And then from there, he didn't have another 20-point week until week 12. And then it's week 16 against Detroit, where he went absolutely nuclear and went 10 for 181 and 2 touchdowns for 40 fantasy points week 16. But there was a pretty large stretch this year where people were just kind of a little upset with him because, he had 2, 5.7, 16.5, 10.4. He was kind of living, dying by the touchdown. He went on that long streak, from week 1 all the way through week 5, where he scored a touchdown at least one touchdown every single game. And he was kind of living and dying by the touchdown because he wasn't getting a lot of yards. If you look last year, he only had 4 times last year did he have over 100 receiving yards. So he was kind of living and dying by the touchdown. And so, and especially with Chris Godwin too, I was hoping actually Chris Godwin was going to go somewhere else just because I wanted him to be a more integral part of the offense, because I felt like, right now they kind of cannibalize each other a little bit. And so, with Mike Evans, I have him a little bit higher because I just think his touchdown upside is a little bit higher than Chris Godwin's is. But I absolutely love Chris Godwin as the player. But I just think with all these weapons there, they're probably not going to have the same share of the offense that you would like to see. And then with the Dallas wide receivers, I do have Amari Cooper a little bit lower than CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb takes another step forward this year. Listen, that offense was absolutely electric last year when Dak Prescott was playing. And I don't think that's going to change. I think he's going to come back ready to go, healthy and ready to go. And like you mentioned, this defense is still not going to be very good. And so they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. But I think they kind of cannibalize each other a little bit like what we see with Tampa Bay in the sense that I think they eat into each other's targets. Michael Gallup is also still there. I just have them a little bit lower, mainly due to that point. But this is still going to be a really great offense on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, every year we have an offense that supports 2 top 12 wide receivers, and that could easily be one of them. For me, I have Ayuk here up at 18. I don't know, again, how that's going to be received here in the comments. And please be sure to jump in and get some conversation going with us, whether you agree or disagree or think we're missing somebody in our rankings here. But I just think with what he was able to do, and whether or not it's Trey Lance starting the beginning of the year, halfway through the year, even if it's Garoppolo all year and Trey Lance takes a bit of a red shirt, that's still going to be an improvement on, CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins, what he was dealing with. And if you look at what Ayuk did from week 7 on, he was wide receiver 5 in fantasy points per game. And, we have been Deebo Samuel stands here on the TFA podcast, but he really hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy, be on the field. Going back to South Carolina, he dealt with injuries and missed some time. And now through his, first 2 years in the NFL, and obviously I think with Kittle coming back and healthy, that's going to help open things up for Ayuk as well, just in terms of having somebody else that defenses are going to have to key in on. And then I'm kind of just planting my flag here on Jamar Chase. I know whenever, you saw this pre-show, you said you thought that your ranking of Chase was high. Obviously, he's not showing up in your top 24. I just think that if you are going to forego taking Penei Sewell after what you just saw happen to your franchise quarterback, the connection with those two from LSU, like that should be something that just absolutely jumps off right from the get-go. And we know that this Cincinnati offense, I don't think the passing volume is going to be stopping anytime soon. And I think Jamar Chase is going to be able to step in day one and be that dude. I was a little surprised to see that you, the DJ Chark numero uno fan, did not have him in your top 24, with obviously the addition of Trevor Lawrence, or who knows, maybe even Tim Tebow coming in at quarterback for the Jags. We can start moving on here, but and then I really struggled. I see you have Odell at 24. I really went back and forth with like Odell and Jarvis Landry. Obviously, I'm going to have both of those guys coming up with the next group of receivers. Are you expecting, because we've seen Baker kind of lock on to Odell and feed him maybe when it wasn't totally necessary? Do you think we kind of get that? Or are you just expecting, Baker with what he showed toward the end of the year and that offense finally starting to open up, Odell is going to be the beneficiary of that?
Odell was tough because I kind of went back and forth with some of these guys that I have in the wide receiver 3 range to go 24. I don't feel like great about having him where I have him. I still think that he has something left in the tank. He is 28 years old. He's had a lot of injuries. He's coming off a major injury last year, but it happened early enough in the year that he should be pretty close to 100% by the time the season rolls around. But if you look at him last year, I mean, he wasn't great in the opportunities that he had. He only averaged 12 fantasy points per game. I still think that he can be a threat in this passing offense. And listen, I like this Cleveland Brown passing offense this year to take another step forward. We kind of saw it in the second half of last year, which was, once Odell left and he made Rashard Higgins and Jarvis Landry and Donovan Peoples-Jones flashed a little bit, and Austin Hooper. And I think now you bring back Odell. There was kind of some rumors, some talk that possibly maybe they would trade him. They did not do that. And, he's back here again, but he still had 22% of the targets while he was healthy and while he played. He had 9 deep targets in those 6 games as well. So I think if this offense, especially this passing offense, was 29th in pass plays per game last year, I think you could probably see him be more close to the 15 range. If that happens, it's a lot more targets to go around for for Odell. And I just think that Odell could kind of have a little bit of a bounce back year, something we were hoping for last year. If you go back to 2019, where he actually played all 16 games, but I think he played through like a sports hernia, but he still was, at least decently productive. But, listen, like, people aren't going to value Odell Beckham the way they used to. I'm not saying that I think he can be a top 5 wide receiver or anything like that, because it's just not going to be it. But I still think that he can be a valuable wide receiver 2. I would much rather prefer him as a wide receiver 3 if you can make it happen. But once you get past some of these dudes, like I said, I think they're kind of interchangeable. I could have DJ Chark a little bit higher, but my wide receiver 3s that we have, I just feel like that, I could have Tyler Lockett ahead of him. Cortland Sutton, I wouldn't hate. Like, there's a lot of these guys here that I feel like that I could have at wide receiver 24 as a low end wide receiver 2. So I just think this kind of range, this tier here is what it is. But you look at my group to your group, it's a little bit different. I have Tyler Lockett at 25, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, Adam Thielen, Jamar Chase at 29, T. Higgins, Will Fuller, Devontae Smith, Corey Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Jarvis Landry, where you have Tyler Boyd, Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, Odell at 30, Devontae, Will Fuller, Denzel Mims. That's hot. That's a little steamy. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and then Jalen Waddle to wrap out your top 36. Let's talk a little bit about the Cincinnati wide receivers while we're here, because I only have 2 of the 3, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, in my top 36. You have all 3. I know you're a Tyler Boyd stan. I know Alito, shout out him. He's probably going to say something about you having him at 25, because that seems a little bit low, because that is hashtag for the brand for you with him. But I will say this. I definitely think they can support 3 wide receivers for sure. I know they want to have because they don't have a tight end of consequence, like we talked about earlier, right, on the previous show with running back. So, I think they're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. And so Tyler Boyd is going to be on the field a lot. So I think it's possible that we could see all these guys. But I do think there is going to be a lot of hit and miss here and trying to predict, what week is going to be which guy's week. And I think a lot like kind of the Tampa Bay situation. So it might be easier just to take the cheaper of all of them. And honestly, Jamar Chase might be the cheapest, but I have a feeling that Tyler Boyd is probably going to end up coming in for everybody as the cheapest of all the 3 Cincinnati wide receivers.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually do not have all 3 in my top 36. I do have T. Higgins just outside.
Oh, you're right. I just not noticed that. Yeah. Okay. I just expected him to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was mentioning with Chase, I know that there are, whether or not you buy into or believe in the vacated targets kind of thing. AJ Green did somehow, some way have over 100 targets last year. I think T. Higgins was around the same range that he was. So obviously there's going to be enough for Jamar Chase to come in, get his, for T. Higgins to still get his. I think Jamar Chase is going to be in that 130-ish range. Some of that comes away from T. Higgins, and I think Tyler Boyd is just going to be that steady guy who maybe doesn't have the ceiling, but I think he might have one of the safest floors, just with where he operates in the in terms of that offense, coming in from the slot. But real quickly, just looking at Best Ball 10's ADP, just over the last week. So since the draft ended, Higgins is going at 26, Jamar Chase is going at 27, and Tyler Boyd is going at 31. And I will say this one more time. Tyler Boyd was a wide receiver 1 up until the point that Joe Burrow got injured. So I'm going to hold on to that very tightly, because I did have Boyd as a wide receiver 1. I'm dropping him down here against what my heart is telling me. But I do think that Jamar Chase kind of just jumps right into it. T. Higgins maybe falls back slightly, and Boyd is kind of just that steady guy who maybe doesn't have the ceiling. But whenever we're looking at these wide receiver 3s, I like to have balance in terms of the quote unquote type of receivers I have. So I really wouldn't mind having Boyd as like maybe my my wide receiver 3 or so, because I like having some of those high ceiling guys, some boom bust guys, and then some safe floor type of receivers. And I kind of the rest of the guys on this list, maybe a little bit more hit and miss. So I feel comfortable with Boyd at 25 again, just because of the floor that I think he's going to provide, particularly in full PPR leagues.
Yeah, I don't hate that call at all. I think Tyler Boyd is always undervalued. I just like I already mentioned, that's why I have him a little bit lower than this. I think I have him like 37 or 38 in my my rankings. So other than that, mine aren't nearly as hot. I have Juju and Chase because, again, I think they kind of like what we saw last year, where 1 week it'll be Juju, and next week it'll be Chase Claypool, of guys that really get opportunity with Deontay Johnson just getting 100 targets every week. Devontae Smith, I think he can easily step in and be the alpha wide receiver in this offense, with Jalen Reagor being the number 2. And so I think he sees a large target share year 1. So I feel pretty confident having him there. Corey Davis, going to the Jets with Zach Wilson. There is a lot of mouths to feed as well there, but I feel pretty confident with with Corey Davis at least being kind of a back end wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. But I don't think you're going to have to draft him like that. I think you could probably draft him as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, and I think he makes for a nice flex play, depending on who they're going to play, because their defense is still going to be trash and they're going to throw the ball. So the rest of my rankings aren't that hot, but we got to talk about 2 guys that you have before we sign off, and that is Denzel Mims, which I love Denzel Mims, the player, but having him in top 36, I think, is spicy. And then Jalen Waddle. I will just say this with Jalen Waddle. I think it's going to take him a couple of years to really get going, and really start being a really consistent, productive fantasy wide receiver. Listen, he didn't do a whole lot at Alabama. I'm not going to go into the whole me sounding like I hate Jalen Waddle, but he has that late breakout age, all these things. Like his profile, I'm not saying he's the same type of player, but he has the same profile as Henry Ruggs. And we saw what Henry Ruggs did last year. But in Miami, they brought in Will Fuller, Devontae Parker is still there. And so, I think this is still a team that is not going to want to throw the ball 40 times a game. I think you see them lean a little bit more on the run. They have one of the best defenses in all the league. So I don't know if they're going to be able to support 2 wide receivers in the top 36.
This is where I really started to I didn't know what to do with Will Fuller. Like maybe having Waddle at 36 is a little spicy. But I just feel like, you mentioned Ruggs, but I think that was a Gruden problem. We don't see too many times outside of like injury, guys like John Ross, where receivers are taken this highly that, offenses and teams don't have a plan in place where they, where they want to get them involved and get that ball in their hands as much as they can. And that's what, I think. Is he a speedster the same way that Will Fuller is? Sure, but I think you can do more with Waddle. Maybe getting Tua a little bit more comfortable, in that offense, and kind of giving him that, that safety blanket and kind of that Burrow to Chase corollary. Looking here too with Tua and Waddle. Like I said, really wasn't sure what to do with that group, and like the group that I have after them is just kind of like, I have Chase outside of my top 36. I just, there are a couple of these names that, I'm hoping with training camp and, some of the news coming out that like this will start to shake out and, make it a little bit easier to rank these guys. But yeah, Denzel Mims at 33, you have Corey Davis at 33. I'm just going with a different New York Jets receiver. And it's really just what it comes down to for me is I think with the way that Zach Wilson plays and what we saw some of his strengths were, he had a really good deep ball. Mims is clearly the most explosive pass catcher they have. And even though they took my guy, Michael Carter, in the 4th round, like I really don't look at that running back group and think that is going to be their strong suit. So I think this might be a pass-heavy kind of offense. And you look at that defense as well, still some question marks there. I think Mims in his 2nd year, hopefully fully healthy, is going to be that explosive guy to take the top off the defense and be able to provide that for the Jets. But like I said at the beginning of the show, man, this was difficult to go through and try and parse through these guys, and I definitely spent a lot more time trying to shake through the wide receiver rankings than I did with the running backs. It was there's just so many guys to like, and then at this point of the off season, just we don't have a lot of answers to the test quite yet. So it's going to be really interesting to look back on this in 3 months whenever we're diving a little bit fuller and we have a better sense, hopefully from OTA and training camp kind of information on what to expect from some of these guys.
No, I agree. I mean, this is kind of just our initial look at where these guys are. I will ask, if Aaron Rodgers does get traded to Denver, then what are you doing with their pass catchers? Like, would you move Cortland? Is Cortland Sutton now a top 12 wide receiver? Is he a top? I think he's definitely a top 24 locked in. And I think he's probably a top 20. Like, Cortland Sutton is a baller. Like, Cortland Sutton is really good. I know he had that injury last year really early, so he's kind of out of people's minds. But, like, Cortland Sutton is a really good wide receiver. And so I think he can play that Devontae Adams type role, right? Where like kind of at the same thing in the same vein as the Green Bay offense. But if Aaron Rodgers does get dealt to Denver, like these pass catchers go like it's wheels up for Denver pass catchers, right? Because I like this offense, like all of the weapons that they have. Like I really like this offense, but it's just the quarterback that holds me back from having them higher than what they are. But you add Aaron Rodgers into this now, and it's a lot of fun. And now, I think Jerry Jeudy is definitely much higher as well. And then, Noah Fant probably moves up a lot higher. But where would you have them? Like just a range.
Yeah, I think you have to look at both of those guys. Maybe this is hot takey, but I could see Jerry Jeudy being the Devontae Adams just in terms of his route running and his separation. I think that would be a more for me anyway to equate those two, whereas Sutton is kind of that prototypical X receiver, just down the field, throw it up and let him go get it. I think Jeudy might be the Devontae Adams in that case. In terms of Sutton and Jeudy, I think both of those guys have to be in top maybe as high as 15 to 20, 21 for both of those guys. Because you're not going to, whatever they trade for Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a team-friendly deal. And you don't trade for Aaron Rodgers to make him a game manager or to have like a balanced offense. I mean, you're putting that ball in his hand and you're letting him go do his thing. So I don't think, I worry about the volume a little bit right now for both of those guys, which is kind of why I have them back to back here at the end of wide receiver threes. But man, that would be a lot of fun to see Rodgers go to this offense.
Yeah, imagine the division where you have Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert all in the same offense, all in the same division too. Like shootouts galore would be coming too. So I hope. I mean, I am a Chiefs fan, so I mean, my homerism and my fandom hopes that he doesn't get traded to Denver. But if
and
it
all with solid defenses too, so those games would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but regardless, I just we got those are the Julio Jones and I think Aaron Rodgers are the two biggest news that we really have to get to really start to feel comfortable where you're ranking these guys. But kind of like you mentioned with the running backs, we'll definitely be getting much deeper and go much further than 36 because let's face it, I mean that's not nearly deep enough through draft season. So we'll probably maybe we'll try to get to 48 or 50 top wide receivers or something like that, and maybe the top 50 running backs as well, so we could actually, have a little bit more to help people out.
For sure. And speaking of helping people out, there will be plenty of content as we start to shift away from, there's been an emphasis on obviously draft and dynasty. Still going to have dynasty content for you guys, but we will also be kicking up the redraft content. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you're not yet subscribed. Hit us with a like, drop a comment, let us know you too high, too low, crazy, roast us, whatever you want to do. And then if you're listening to this on podcast form, please leave a rate and review for us there to help spread the good word without spreading the good word directly. So we'll talk to all of you guys soon, and bye. That's it.